Hi, my name is Shraddha Patel, and thanks for taking the time out today to check out this research on how people with delayed sleep-wake phase disorder can realign their melatonin secretion times and circadian schedule through the time consumption of whole cow's milk. So let's look at this research in terms of a scenario. Imagine coming home after a long day, tired from overworking yourself, but you still have so much work left to finish, so you keep on going. You lose all track of time, and next thing you know, it's 2 a.m. Maybe you've forgotten to eat in the midst of the madness, or forgotten to take care of yourself properly. Then you fall asleep, only to wake up 3 or 4 hours later and start the next day in a very fatigued and tired state. That night, the same thing happens. You repeat this schedule, and you're stuck in a time loop of tiredness per se. Any objective person can determine that this is not a very healthy cycle, but sadly, it sounds familiar to many of us, whether you're a student or you work night shifts or you just aren't allowed enough time to take good care of your health. This offset sleep schedule is known as delayed sleep-wake phase disorder, which is a specific type of circadian rhythm disorder. The technical definition states that DSPD patients have a sleep shift of 2 or more hours than the socially accepted time. Well, in the US, that would be around 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., and DSPD patients would fall asleep around maybe 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So the key thing to remember is that disordered patients lack energy and alertness in the morning, which can negatively affect their focus and attention in the following days. And these images show the numerical timings of bodily rhythms and hormonal secretion times of regular sleepers versus DSPD patients. So the prevalence of this disorder is 17% in the world, while the median age is 19. And I know that doesn't sound too high, but this statistic was taken before the pandemic. So if you take into account the events of these last 2 years, people have lost track of sleep and health due to new issues arising. So I'm positive that the statistic has gone up and more people do need help on their sleep health. Key things to remember is that DSPD patients are fighting their own bodies to reestablish homeostasis. And this negatively impacts their hormones, their health, and even sleep waves. So both external factors such as excessive light and internal factors such as diet choices, they work in conjunction with each other to decide one thing. How's your health? How are you sleeping? How are you feeling? So to take a deeper dive into the physiology of sleep and circadian disorders, let's quickly review what the pineal gland is. This gland is the size of a grain of rice, and it's located in between your two brain hemispheres. It's actually right in the center of it. So not only does it regulate your sleep, but it helps you interpret the light that you intake throughout the entire day. And arguably its most important role is to release melatonin at night to determine the level of sleepiness you have. Besides melatonin, there are two other molecules that are determinant of your sleep quality as well, and that would be serotonin and tryptophan. Together, all three of these are known as sleep-regulating molecules. To quickly sum up what melatonin is, it's a sleep-regulating hormone that's released by the pineal gland to prepare the body to rest at night. Light, on the other hand, turns off something known as the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and that stops the release of melatonin secretion. So melatonin secretion starts at 10 or 11ish at night, and it has the heaviest secretion between 2 and 4 a.m. in a normal sleeper. Now, you can see how this is a dilemma for a DSPD patient who actually goes to sleep so late that their entire secretion schedule is just completely off. And this entire process is shifted by some number of hours, and they don't really finish up their sleep cycle, which makes them tired and they're not fully energized for the next few days. The next sleep regulating molecule is serotonin, and it's one of the most important neurotransmitters for mood, sleep, pain levels, memory, circadian schedule, and appetite. It's found in the brain, but it's also found in the gut, which is very important to remember going forward. Next up is tryptophan, which is an essential amino acid that you can only obtain from diet. Your body cannot make it naturally, meaning that food is absolutely crucial to obtain the sleep-regulating amino acid. And similar to serotonin, it regulates nearly everything, and it's found in the gut as well. These three molecules work in conjunction with each other to regulate sleep, but how are they all connected? So, to understand this, we have to learn about tryptophan, or more specifically, its mechanism. Well, this amino acid catabolizes itself in many ways. Certain times it takes a kynurenine pathway, or maybe it stops at certain intermediates and builds upon that to build more molecules that are necessary for you to function. For the sake of this research, we are going to focus on one specific pathway, and that's known as the melatonin synthesis pathway. So all three of these diagrams are trying to make one point, that tryptophan is synthesized into serotonin, and then serotonin is synthesized into melatonin. So these enzymes and intermediates are shown in diagrams, but the main point is that tryptophan eventually makes melatonin. Again, this is just a recap of the cycle I just stated, but the impacts and functions of these three molecules are just so important, and they're listed right there on the bottom. Now that we've talked about how the three sleep regulating hormones are connected, let's look at where they're actually connected from. So, in short, the gut-brain axis is a crucial connection of our body where the GI tract and the central nervous system are directly connected with each other in a way where molecules are able to be transferred back and forth between the brain and the gut. So, why is this important to us? Well, for two reasons. One, 95% of our serotonin is in the GI tract, and remember that serotonin is an intermediate that forms melatonin. And the second reason is that the gut contains nearly 400 times more melatonin than the pineal gland actually does. Well, what does this mean for us? So, if there's a direct connection from the GI tract, where our nutrients are sucked in from the foods that we eat, to the brain, then these sleep-regulating hormones are very highly affected by the amount of tryptophan, serotonin, and melatonin that we actually intake from our foods. So the most logical way to think about this is that our sleep type, quality, sleep waves, sleep latency, and sleep induction can all be changed from what we eat. Particularly tryptophan, because that's a molecule that can be converted into other sleep-inducing molecules. So when we do intake tryptophan and it gets to our brain via the gut-brain axis, it needs to enter the blood-brain barrier to break down and form melatonin. But there's a competition because tryptophan has to fight for its place in the transporters across the BBB. It's a fight between the one amino acid and other important large neutral amino acids listed there. And this image is a visualization of the competitive transporter and amino acid competition going on in the BBB between tryptophan and L-alanines. Now that you know this pathway, what's the best way to ensure that more tryptophan actually gets into the BBB and synthesizes into melatonin? Well, this can be done through the macromolecules that we find in our foods. The two key macromolecules that we need to focus on are carbs and proteins. Well, amino acids, including tryptophan and other LNAs, are the building blocks of proteins. But remember that protein-filled foods are high in all types of amino acids. So that negates the effects of raising the tryptophan to LNAA ratio. On the other hand, carbs don't have many proteins, but they do have a high tryptophan value. This increased concentration of tryptophan in comparison to other amino acids will raise its chances of crossing the BBB. Now, a high carb diet does raise tryptophan levels, but balance is necessary. Having just carbs is very unhealthy, even if it does induce sleep. So a healthy diet and lifestyle requires balance. And as I mentioned before, proteins lower the TRP to LNAA ratio, but proteins are necessary for a balanced diet, even in DSPD patients who need more sleep-regulating molecules. So I found a little loophole in one particular protein that raises the ratio and produces the same effects as a high tryptophan carbohydrate. And this protein is known as alpha-lactalbumin, or ALAC for short. It's very high in tryptophan. It's known as a sleep-inducing molecule due to the fact ALAC is found in mammalian milks, and the highest quantity is in breast milk, which is probably why babies love their sleep. But a very, very close second is whole cow's milk. Cow's milk is very high in ALAC and tryptophan. For example, the tryptophan daily value should be around 250 to 425 per day in a normal sleeper, and milk has nearly 150 milligrams in just one cup, not to mention that it has 284 milligrams of ALAC, and so many other nutrients that are necessary for health, which I've listed on the slide right there. Aside from tryptophan levels, milk contains other sleep regulating factors. For example, omega-3 is correlated with increasing the conversion of serotonin to melatonin, while polyunsaturated fats are associated with sleep efficiency and deep REM sleep, which is also known as restorative sleep. Calcium and potassium play a role in the modulation of voltage-dependent channels that generate slow waves, sleep spindles, and delta waves, which are the deepest form that you need to restore your sleep cycle. Okay, so now we're slowly piecing this puzzle together. We have DSPD patients who need to drink milk to raise their sleep regulating molecules and get a better quality of sleep, which could potentially shift their sleeping time to a normal time and also increase their alertness. But there's something missing from this, and it's not just that one cup of milk will solve all sleep problems. So we have to look at a new idea. And that idea is called chrononutrition. It's basically timed behaviors, and we're looking specifically at timed eating. Researchers argue that when you eat can be just as important as what you eat. DSPD patients need to shift their sleep earlier on in the day by timing their diet. So tryptophan is highly synthesized 2 to 3 hours after consumptions, so patients should plan on drinking milk 2 to 3 hours before they want to go to sleep. And even if they don't want to shift their sleep schedule back, they can still increase their morning alertness this way. Timing your day is just so crucial to your health. So let's play these ideas back and see how it can apply. Before the patient plans on sleeping, they should drink about 1 cup of milk. That gives them enough time to synthesize their tryptophan in the milk into serotonin, possibly boosting their mood while they're at it. Then it will be converted into melatonin at night, which will work in conjunction with the melatonin being released from the pineal gland. And then the melatonin flooding into your system will start the sleep cycle and parasympathetic relaxation a bit earlier, allowing you to get deeper, more restorative sleep. And sometimes the quality of sleep is more important than the quantity of sleep. And this method is building upon that idea. And I call this plan the milk treatment. Again, this restates the benefits that can be reaped from this plan. One key thing to note is that this is a very small change, nothing drastic. It's just the addition of timed consumption of milk. And there's a large benefit that follows if this plan is tested and even works just a little to improve sleep quality in DSPD patients. And of course, results do take time. So don't expect change to come in one day. This plan relies on consistency via chrononutritional methods. The milk plan does require prolonged testing to see its efficiency and see if there's room for improvement. For example, heat wasn't taken into account, but if follow-up researchers want to see if temperature of the milk can actually alter the speed of melatonin conversion, then by all means, go ahead. But one more note is that this plan is meant for those who do not have dairy dietary restrictions. So for other studies, there could be methods on determining if plant-based milks could yield the same results. And I have listed several quantitative methods which have been used by other researchers regarding the same topics and ideas. They test sleep quality, alertness, stress, etc., and have shown to actually account for subjectivity. Alright, so I'm just scratching the surface of chrononutrition and its connection with sleep hygiene, but I'm hoping it paves the path to more discoveries on the topic. And thank you so much for listening through this, and I hope you found something in this that you could apply to benefit your own health during these times. Thanks again.